Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us today in these important times politically and both foreign policy-wise. It seems Joe Biden and his administration are doing all they can to beat the World War III drum, and they've been doing it for the last almost 4 years now of his lame duck administration, but it seems they've sort of ramped it up as he's leaving office, particularly with Ukraine and Russia and that war going on over there. Now, I don't know if it has anything to do with the money his son has made off of Ukraine, and that has something to do with why he's been so happy and eager to keep sending them money, even offering them another $24 billion as he walks out the door, which is almost certainly going to piss Russia off even more, as if the American-made weapons and rockets being launched into their country weren't enough. He now wants to send them more money. Thanks to the good Lord, Mike Johnson finally doing his job over in the House of Representatives, saying no dice for that $24 billion.
Last week, the Biden administration requested to attach to upcoming CR additional aid to Ukraine, $24 billion. Are you planning to do that? What is your position?
I'm not planning to do that. There are developments by the hour in Ukraine. I think, as we predicted, and as I said to all of you, weeks before the election, if Donald Trump is elected, it will change the dynamic of the Russia war on Ukraine. And we're seeing that happen. So it is not the place of Joe Biden to make that decision now. We have a newly elected president, and we're going to wait and take the new commander-in-chief's direction on all of that. So I don't expect any Ukraine funding to come up.
Good on Mike Johnson. About time doing his job. It's taken him long enough to get to that point where he's ready to grow a backbone and speak out against this regime. I've said it multiple times on the show, and Lou said it before he passed away, that we need to keep Johnson on a short leash. These congressional terms are only 2 years long, and a lot of time can be wasted in 2 years. So he's got to hit the ground running on January 20th, and within weeks, I give it weeks, if he can't seem to coordinate with President Trump on how we're going to move forward in this administration, President Trump has got to move on from him and seek the next best option in Congress to take over as Speaker of the House. We have no time to waste. 2 years comes and it goes very fast. And there's no guarantee that in 2 years the Republicans will be able to hold the House. Historically, it shows that they will lose the House. So we've really only got 2 years, if we look at it from a realistic standpoint, to get everything done that President Trump wants to get done, whether we build the wall, get through government funding that gets rid of DEI and all this woke ideology garbage out of our institutions and our systems. In other news, the Biden White House is reportedly considering preemptive pardons for a few folks. One of them, Adam Schiff. Another, Liz Cheney, and another one, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now, the Marxist left constantly say that these people should be pardoned, but they also say at the same time they've done no crimes. So if they've done no crimes, why is the Marxist left and the mainstream media so set on getting these people pardons? It doesn't really make much sense. Over at the DOJ, Merrick Garland is reportedly begging the deep state lawyers who work over there to remain at the DOJ, saying that the department needs their, quote, institutional knowledge. So now that should come as a red flag to the incoming administration and for the folks who are going to be running that DOJ to go ahead and find those, quote, institutional lawyers and get them the hell out of there on day one, because they do not belong there. Merrick Garland's asking them to stay. It means they're the first ones who, in fact, need to go. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They've got to go. On a side note, there's a report out that 21 of George Soros's backed prosecutors that he funded millions of dollars to, some of them, have been ousted since 2022. That's 21 of them. So things are looking optimistic for this country with President Trump's decisive victory exactly a month ago today. And it looks like America's moving in the right direction. We need to continue to do so in the next elections coming up in 2026, in 2028 as well. Also looking forward to those Senate elections that are coming up in 2026. We've really got to drain the swamp. And I'm going to take that up here with our guest today in just a few moments. Our guest today is one of our weekly favorites who joins us here each and every week on the Great America Show, the great Roger Stone. He's the host of the Stone Zone podcast each and every night on Rumble. You can go to stonezone.com or you can go to Rumble at the Stone Zone, the great Roger Stone. Roger, it's great to have you back with us here on the Great America Show. It's been some time. We went past a holiday. I was on vacation, but now I was having Roger withdrawals. I was coming back on the plane from Africa, and I was scratching my neck, and I couldn't get to you fast enough. So here we are. Welcome back. I want to get to something first that we've been hearing a lot over the last few days, and it's that Pete Hegseth, the SecDef nominee, may soon be dropping out of the race for political pressure from the left. And we may soon see your good friend, Ron DeSantis, scoop on in. This is, of course, unconfirmed reports. I want to play for the audience a clip of Roger warning us about DeSantis back in 2022, long before he decided to make the stupid move to primary Donald Trump for that 2024 nomination. Take a listen.
Roger! My man, I didn't even see. How could I not see my Roger? God bless you. I'm doing well. I think I'm doing
good. Roger, this is long before he showed his true colors. And I think the saying Lou used to use is, every dog has its fleas. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's important for people to review the history because maybe some people who don't live in Florida don't remember it. But when Ron DeSantis was running for governor, he was running at about 8% in the polls. He was led by the state agriculture commissioner, former Congressman Adam Putnam. All 62 Republican county chairmen in Florida endorsed Putnam, DeSantis' opponent. Every single Republican in the state legislature, where we had the majority in both houses, still do. The Senate president, the Speaker of the House, endorsed Ron DeSantis' opponent. Every member of the Republican congressional delegation from Florida, with the exception of Matt Gaetz, endorsed Putnam. And then the truth is, in 2016, when Trump won the Republican nomination for president and DeSantis was running for re-election and for Congress, DeSantis refused to endorse Donald Trump. Right. I could show you the video in which he actually says, well, just because we're both on the Republican ticket does not mean I support Donald Trump for president. Right. President Trump had never seen that video. Then after Trump was elected, Ron kind of saw his opportunity to reinvent himself as a defender of Trump in the Russian collusion hoax. And for the first time ever, Donald Trump became aware of who Ron DeSantis was. Of course, he liked what he saw because DeSantis was on Fox and conservative talk radio and other outlets defending Trump on the Russian collusion matter. So Ron DeSantis, as we now know, went and begged Donald Trump for an endorsement. Congressman Gaetz was a major sponsor of that. He urged the president to endorse Ron DeSantis. He did endorse him just in a tweet on Truth Social, and DeSantis' campaign took off like a rocket. He went from 8 to 68, almost overnight. His campaign coffers went from being virtually empty to bulging with enough money to win an upset victory in the primary. Now, because Ron is not a strong candidate, he was locked in a very, very close general election. And President Donald Trump had to change his schedule 3 times to come to Florida in the final 2 weeks of the 2018 election to literally drag Ron DeSantis over the finish line. Right. And we elected a Republican governor, who I voted for. Early after Trump losing or being cheated out of the 2020 election, when President Trump made it pretty clear he intended to run again, I began to hear reports that Ron DeSantis was planning to challenge the man who made him. Now, let's be very clear. Without Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis would be managing a McDonald's someplace. But instead, he gets to be governor of Florida. Right. At 42 years old, you would think that he would have some loyalty to the man who made his career. But unfortunately, he didn't have that loyalty. He mounted a very, very expensive challenge. He spent $30 million in an attempt to defeat Donald Trump. If you go back and look at the closing days of that contest, he got very nasty and personal in his attacks on the president. Yeah. And he was ignominiously defeated. So my problem here is loyalty. Now, people keep saying, but he's a great governor. Right. And then I check, and the people who tell me that live in Ohio or Florida or Texas or California. Our utility rates are through the roof. Could that be because Ron DeSantis took $9.5 million from Florida Power and Light and its subsidiaries for his various political committees when he was running for president? Our insurance rates are astronomical. The insurance bill for my single 2016 Lincoln Continental that has 98,000 miles on it has tripled in the last 2 years. And we have a rising crime problem in this state. So, look, this is just, to me, it's a simple question of loyalty. I believe in loyalty. At 42 years old, Governor DeSantis could have waited his turn, and he could certainly have run. But these stories that you refer to, saying that he will be the next Secretary of Defense, I can find no basis for them. I've made some calls early this morning to people who would be in a position to know. And they tell me that it is baseless speculation. Beyond the fact that there is no indication that Pete Hegseth is throwing in the towel. He said this morning that he's going to continue to fight. I believe he will continue to fight. I support his nomination. Yeah. I think he is the target of character assassination. This New Yorker piece on him is an outrage. It's a collection of lies and falsehoods and smears. And Hegseth looks to me like he's a brawler. He's not looking to me like a man who walks away from a fight. So any second guessing over who might replace him, that is exactly that, second guessing.
The whole issue with DeSantis, the mistake he made, a lot of people said it was his wife who was his unofficial advisor who made him run. Now, I know a lot of political advisors, none as dumb as that, who would ever go up against Donald Trump. And it's just for the sheer reason of how powerful he is. Roger, we look to now, President Trump comes in until 2028. These guys after 2028, these guys who are just lazy SOBs are going to have a very tough time after that, because I think probably after Donald Trump's done with his second term, he's probably going to want to finally retire somewhat once and for all, go golfing, run his business a little bit. I don't think he's probably going to want to be involved in politics, something that's almost destroyed his life, something that's almost taken his life now 2 times. So these RINOs are going to have a very, very tough time. Do you think in the next 4 years, we just saw this guy Durate lose his seat in California. He was a RINO, but he's probably stolen seat from him. Took over a month to count the votes. Do you think we'll see over the next 4 years, President Trump and his team of folks like Elon Musk start to weed out some of these RINOs who have just absolutely destroyed the party, Roger?
I could be honest with you, John. I think Donald Trump has fundamentally changed the nature of the Republican Party, and it's never going back. We're never again going to be the party of Wall Street. We're never going to be the party of the country club. We're never going to be the party of the moneyed elites or the globalists. We're never going to be the party of war or the party of censorship. Those days are over. The days that we were the party of the country club Bush Republicans, those days are done. The new Republican Party, or I should say the new MAGA movement, which is broader and larger and more powerful than the Republican Party, is the party of the middle class. It's the party of working people. It's the party of common sense. It's the party of low energy prices. It's the party of spending cuts. It's a party of tax reduction. It's the party of lower inflation. And most importantly, it's the party of peace. It's going to be the party that stands for secure borders. And then I expect Donald Trump will crack down on the drug crisis in this country and the crime crisis in this country. So it's never going back. If you're some country club Republican thinking, well, we just have to wait Trump out, you don't understand. You don't understand the sea change that's taken place here. Secondarily, J.D. Vance has 4 years to prove himself. He proved himself in a tremendous debate with his opponent. He proved himself on the campaign trail. He's off to a very strong start. I think Donald Trump could have no better partner. There's a level of trust there based on, I think, largely on the senator's excellent record in the Senate, where he proved that he's not a neocon. He's not a country club Republican. They hate him because he went to Yale. Give me a break. This guy had to fight for everything he's ever gotten. He comes from a hard scrap background. He comes from a very troubled childhood, family-wise. He's fought and earned for everything he has. He's been a tremendous success, a success in business, a proud military veteran who served his country with honor, who won himself a seat in the Senate. And then when he went to the Senate, like Trump, he did exactly what he said he was going to do when he was running for the Senate. How incredibly rare. So I think there's a potentially a strong candidate there. You have new stars in this party. Look at Tulsi Gabbard, who's now a Republican, formerly a Democrat. She left the Democrat Party because when she joined that party, that was the party of peace and the party of civil liberties and the party of civil rights, the party of free speech. But she doesn't recognize her old party because those who used to follow Kennedy and Truman now follow Marx and Lenin. And she realizes that the Republican Party is where it's at in terms of peace and prosperity and security and justice. So I think we have not only in Vice President Vance a strong potential presidential candidate, but in people like Tulsi Gabbard, strong national candidates. I expect she'll be a candidate for vice president someday. I think that the future is very bright for the MAGA wing, the dominant wing of the Republican Party. Now, if I were a senator, say from, I don't know, let's say South Dakota, and I was up in 2026, I think long and hard about voting against Kash Patel as the FBI director, or Tulsi Gabbard as the National Director of Intelligence, or Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. Because the people have spoken, and it wasn't a whisper. The people have spoken loud and clear. A president is entitled to his nominees. That's the way our system works. Unless the nominee has done something illegal or dishonest, you're not supposed to vote against them on the basis of your disagreement with their political philosophy.
Nope.
But that's what's being talked about here. When you see senators like James Lankford of Oklahoma saying that, he has reservations about Tulsi Gabbard, really? Senator, did you serve your country in combat in two wars?
Right.
Can you say that you have put your life on the line for the United States? Because she can. She's a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve who served in combat in both Iraq and Kuwait. 4 terms in Congress as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and the Armed Services Committee, more than qualified for this job. And to have a senator who didn't serve, whose previous experience was running a Christian summer camp for children, questioning the patriotism and the loyalty of Tulsi Gabbard, that is an outrage. So I say this, if I lived in Oklahoma today, I would go online, I'd find the email address and the phone number for Senator Lankford's office, and I would send him a respectful, polite, respectful message telling him to vote for the president's nominees. Donald Trump carried all 77 counties in Oklahoma. He's the only man in history who's done it twice now. The people have spoken, Senator. These are the president's nominees. You need to get on board.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The idea of these RINOs just absolutely demolishing this party, I think, as you said, is a way of the past. I want to take a quick break here, and when we come back, I want to talk about some of those folks who are up for re-election in 2026. And one of them who's on his way out the door right now, a man who President Trump brought him across the finish line, took him to dance, and then he didn't want to dance. We're coming right back with the great Roger Stone, folks. Stay with us.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Folks, we're back. We're talking with the great Roger Stone, one of our weekly guests here on the Great America Show. Can't get enough of him. Roger, one of our good friends, giving his farewell speech this week as he departs the Senate. Let's take a listen to this psychopath.
There are some today who would tear at our unity, who would replace love with hate, who deride our foundation of virtue, or who debase the values upon which the blessings of heaven depend. Now, I've been in public service for 25 years. I have learned that politics alone cannot measure up to the challenges we face. A country's character is a reflection not just of its elected officials, but also of its people. I leave Washington to return to be one among them and hope to be a voice of unity and virtue. For it is only if the American people merit his benevolence that God will continue to bless America. May he do so, is my prayer.
Roger, imagine making your farewell speech about the man who created you. This is a man who, quite honestly, got on his knees with knee pads on the second he smelled that Trump was teasing him for Secretary of State. Trump now tells us after the fact that he was just trolling him and having some fun with it. But nonetheless, he's the one who gave him that seat in Utah. So, he's to thank for it. But Mitt Romney's of the world, do you think they're finally starting to see the light?
Well, I think he's a special case. There's a man who believes in absolutely nothing whatsoever. Ran for the first time for the U.S. Senate in his home state of Massachusetts against Ted Kennedy. Was a supporter then of abortion on demand and same-sex marriage. Ran to Kennedy's left. I didn't know there was any room over there. Then ran two disastrous campaigns for president. He had several different debates with Barack Obama, but he was a different person in each debate.
Yeah.
Never really quite understood what he believed in. He said he was severely conservative. Well, John, nobody who's a conservative would describe themselves as severely conservative. Because Mitt Romney's not a conservative. All he believes in nothing other than crony capitalism. And then when a U.S. Senate seat opens up in Utah, he goes to Donald Trump and he begs for the endorsement for that seat. Now, the Republican Attorney General of Utah, who'd been planning his entire career to run for that seat, agrees to step aside at the request of President Donald Trump. Trump endorses Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney easily wins a seat in a state in which he has a vacation home, but which he doesn't really live, and goes to the U.S. Senate. And then just as his father, George Romney, plunged a knife in the back of Republican nominee Barry Goldwater in 1964, Mitt Romney knifes Donald Trump by voting for his impeachment. He's a man devoid of character. He's a man devoid of talent, in my opinion. He's a disgrace. And his real problem is jealousy. Yeah. His real problem is jealousy because he prepared his whole life preparing to become president. He shape-shifted from liberal Republican to moderate Republican to conservative Republican back to liberal Republican. And the people never bought his act and he couldn't get elected. Now comes Donald Trump, who makes it all look so effortless. Right. Trump gets elected simply by being Trump and talking straight to the American people at a time that the American people are tired of politicians and they're tired of the politicians who are constantly changing positions. I mean, Mitt Romney has had more positions than he's had hair colors. I mean, the guy he is just as phony as can be, and the people have seen this. By the way, he left the Senate because he would have lost a Republican primary in Utah. Right. He could have put millions of his own money in. He would have lost the state convention and he would have lost the Republican primary. Trent Staggs, who was a brave mayor who stepped forward when no one else would, unfortunately doesn't win the primary. And the senator they did elect, a guy named Curtis, he's more liberal than Mitt Romney. It's really disgraceful. And he's one of the RINOs we're talking about who is talking about voting against the president's nominees. So it's very strange. Utah is a conservative state. It's a state where Donald Trump is very popular. He won very big in Utah all three times that he was on the ballot. And I think, in all honesty, since there is no provision in Utah law under which a senator can be removed, I thought actually the president should do a rally in Salt Lake City and call on people to sign a petition demanding that Mitt Romney resign from the Senate because he's lost their confidence. Now, he didn't do that, but I kind of wished he had.
Roger Stone stirring the pot. That's why I love this man so much. But it's true. You know, I was talking with Mark Mitchell, head pollster for Rasmussen yesterday, and, you know, we have to stop normalizing these RINOs. And I made a prediction. You know, the guys like Mitt Romney's got the look, and this is why I think a big part of why these people have such Trump derangement syndromes. Like you said, they go according to plan. You become someone's chief of staff in a state legislator. That person then becomes the next legislator, and then they move up to Congress. You go with them, and you run the seat. It's a whole circle jerk that these people follow this formula. Mitt Romney, he had the look to be president. Looks like a man is president, but just absolutely isn't. Donald Trump doesn't look like a president. I mean, he's the greatest president we've ever had, but doesn't look like your typical president. You know, he's out there, he dances, he has fun, and not your typical president because he's not a politician. And I think it drives these people who have planned their whole entire lives, like you said, around the next promotion to become a senator or a congressman or a governor. And Donald Trump just comes in with the hacksaw and takes them all out. I want to talk about 2026 because there's a lot of names, Roger, that are up for re-election. And what I was talking with Mark Mitchell about yesterday was that time and time again, we see things happen in the Senate where one bill or one issue decides the fate of that senator. And my prediction was we're going to see a big Trump bill come up in 2025 or early 2026 in which Senator, we'll use Susan Collins, for example, is going to be the saving vote for that bill. And all of a sudden, she's now going to become this great Republican, and we're all going to forget about what she's done the last 50 plus years that she's been in politics. So you've got guys like Tom Cotton who are up for re-election, Joni Ernst, who's proved herself to be nothing more than a RINO, Bill Cassidy down in Louisiana, RINO, Susan Collins, as I had mentioned, up in Maine, RINO, Mitch McConnell's up for re-election. The man can't even get two words out without stroking out, RINO. You've got guys like Mark Wayne Mullen who are threatening some of Trump's picks. Tom Tillis, another one. Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham's on Hannity every single night. Hannity claims to be a Republican. Why are you having Lindsey Graham on your show every single night? When you know Lindsey Graham's a threat to democracy, the guy wants nothing more than wars in the Middle East. John Cornyn, another one. Mike Rounds. How do we stop normalizing this behavior, Roger, that these guys with 34% conservative scores are Republicans?
Well, the answer is to challenge them in primaries and make sure that their primary opponents are both qualified and extremely well-funded. Now, look, I know Susan Collins. I actually like Susan Collins. I think she's more open-minded than some of the others that you mentioned. That said, she also she represents a state that did not go heavily for Donald Trump. But a senator like Rounds there's no excuse for him not supporting the president's nominees. I bet Donald Trump's approval in South Dakota, I would bet, is probably in the 90s, in all honesty. Cassidy in Louisiana, I think, is going to find himself on the short end of the stick because Donald Trump is extremely popular in Louisiana. These senators, I think, need to wake up and recognize this is a new party. They can go get all their special interest money, but at the end of the day, a lot of them are going to be endangered. But they can only be defeated if we recruit good men and women to run against them. Now, there's a lot of speculation, which I don't agree with, that since Marco Rubio is leaving the Senate to become Secretary of State, which is an appointment that I support. I live in Florida. I must tell you, he's a very effective senator. He's been very, very good on constituent service, and he's been very tough on the communists in this hemisphere when it comes to Venezuela, when it comes to Cuba. I think he's done a great job. He's worked very closely with the president. Having run against him, unlike some of the others, he's repaired his relationship with the president, and they have an excellent relationship. And I think Marco Rubio understands that as Secretary of State, his job is not to carry out his policies. His job is to carry out and execute the policies of the president. I think he's going to be very good at it. But because he will presumably vacate his seat in the early part of the new term that he's just been elected to, we'll have a special election in 2026 for that seat. Now, there's speculation that Governor DeSantis would appoint Lara Trump. I would love that. I think she'd be a great senator. I think she did a great job at the Republican National Committee. She's an excellent public speaker. She's a great advocate for her father and the America First policies. She'd be a strong candidate. In the end of the day, I don't think that's going to happen. I think DeSantis will end up appointing a caretaker, somebody who's not going to run for re-election to the seat, and then which is his right, seek the seat himself in 2026, which is when his term as governor ends, and he cannot run for governor again because we have a 2-term limit under the Florida Constitution. So he can run it for president again in 2028 and get beat again in 2028. But I think that's the game plan. Now, what I think Lara Trump should do is go to her home state, her native state of North Carolina, and take Tom Tillis on in the primary, because she could beat Tillis in the primary, and she'd still be a very strong general election candidate. So she could take out a RINO, win that Republican primary, and then win the general election and hold the seat for the GOP. That's how I hope this unfolds. I think she would be a great U.S. senator. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she'll get appointed in Florida, but I kind of doubt it. But if she's not, I think she has great public service ahead of her, and I think the place to do that is in her native state of North Carolina.
Yeah, I can't imagine DeSantis wanting to do that to himself. He didn't make it to the primary. Is that correct, against Donald Trump for the 2024 nomination?
Well, here's the key point: is that he actually never endorsed Donald Trump. Go back and read his words. He withdrew from the race, saying that he was withdrawing because a majority of Republicans favored the candidacy of Donald Trump. But then he never went the one step and said, and therefore I endorse and will support Donald Trump. He never said that. Yeah. He never campaigned for him anywhere in Florida. We had a giant rally in Doral. It was an amazing rally, huge crowd. Yeah. He would have been very well received. But you know what, John? He didn't show up. I can't think of a single campaign event that he showed up at. Now, President Trump graciously allowed him to address the Republican National Convention, as he did Nikki Haley. But once again, go back and look at DeSantis' remarks. There is no strong endorsement for Donald Trump. So I think a smarter politician would have realized I'm beat. I need to repair my relationships with the America First movement and with Donald Trump. I would have hit the campaign trail hard on behalf of Trump. I would have campaigned as hard as I could, but he didn't do that. And at the end of the day, it's just my opinion, obviously, but I don't think he will appoint Lara Trump, who would be excellent to the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, and I mean, she has her whole family down there. Her and Eric live a very normal life down there. I'm not entirely sure she'd want to uproot and go back home with her kids going to school there. And honestly, Roger, it's a shitty job at the end of the day. You don't make any friends being there. It's not exactly a favorable. I've thought about running for Congress myself many times. Lou begged me to do it against my congresswoman who's a RINO, but I'm like, I don't really want to do it. I don't want to live that life and have to kiss people's ass and beg for money. It's not who I am. And, I have no really interest in doing that. But we'll see. Like you said, I think she'd be an excellent senator. I want to take one more quick break here, Roger. When we return, AG Merrick Garland is begging deep state lawyers to remain at the DOJ and says the department needs their, quote, institutional knowledge. I want to take that up. Also, George Soros, he's having a very tough time. 21 of his backed prosecutors have been ousted since 2022. I also want to take up, as a man who's received a pardon himself, what your thoughts are on Hunter Biden getting a pardon. We're coming right back with the great Roger Stone. Stay with us, folks.
Because of your overwhelming support, our 1488 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing. Including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Folks, we're back. We're talking with our good friend, the great Roger Stone, host of the Stone Zone. You can catch him each and every night on Rumble, a must-watch show. Roger, I want to start with first Hunter Biden getting a pardon very effortlessly from his father. You know, mixed reactions from people on both sides. Some on the right saying, how can he not pardon his son? I understand that from a standpoint, but I also look back and see Joe Biden told us he would never pardon his son and would let the process play out. It turns out he's a liar, and we've known since June now that he's been lying. As a man who fought tooth and nail to have to get a pardon for absolutely doing nothing wrong, which makes it even harder for someone like you to probably fathom with this. Whereas you look at Hunter Biden, a known criminal, we have the evidence. It's right in front of our eyes. He gave it to us. Having to get a pardon for free for nothing, absolutely nothing. It's his daddy. What's your thoughts on it, Raj?
Well, it's very sensitive to me, John, because there's a great narrative all over the internet that says that Roger Stone and his wife evaded $2.5 million in taxes, but they paid no penalty and they were not prosecuted, whereas Hunter Biden was prosecuted for tax evasion. Let me be very clear. My wife and I owe $2 million in taxes. 75% of that is interest and penalties, and it's all from 2006. My taxes are up to date for every year from 2006 to the current time. Evaded taxes, I've made a payment every month since 2007 without missing a payment. And the government will give me no break on interest or penalty, which is usually negotiable. Yeah. So we never evaded taxes. We reported every penny of income, and we accurately reported our assets. They filed a civil suit against me simply because I had no ability to pay. John, we ran out of money. We lost our home, our car, our insurance, our savings, my ability while gagged to make a living and support my family. I simply could no longer pay. But when Hunter Biden's lawyers tried to argue falsely that, well, Roger Stone and his wife evaded taxes, the judge in the case looked at our situation and his and says, this is apples and oranges. Hunter Biden failed to report $10 million plus of income. Again, we reported every penny. So this is a false narrative that has to be corrected, but you'll never see it corrected in the mainstream media. I also wonder why they backdated this pardon all the way to 2014. Right. And I would point out to you that while the Supreme Court decision regarding presidential immunity may protect Joe Biden from payments that made their way to him while he was president, vice presidents have no such immunity. Under James Comer and the House investigation, there is no question now that Joe Biden, when he said he knew nothing about Hunter's business and nobody in my family received any money from China, those are lies. Right. Those are egregious lies. And I'm hopeful that Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel will investigate and find out exactly what happened. If, in fact, Joe Biden, as a sitting vice president, was taking huge payments from China or Russia or Ukraine or Romania or any other country, as appears to be the case, well, then he ought to be prosecuted. That's what happens when you have a one-tier justice system and everybody's held to the same standard. That said, this doesn't surprise me. I would be surprised if Joe Biden doesn't pardon his brother, other members of the Biden crime family, perhaps even himself, before he leaves office. So this idea that Roger Stone was pardoned, and the judge withheld exculpatory evidence in my trial would prove that I didn't do anything wrong. No, sorry, folks, I wasn't lying to cover up Russian collusion because there was no Russian collusion to cover up. Right. No, I wasn't lying to cover up WikiLeaks collaboration because there was no WikiLeaks collaboration to cover up. The judge refused to give us the CrowdStrike's report. I could have proven that there, through expert testimony and forensic evidence, there was no online hack of the DNC. The FBI admitted in the pretrial motions they'd never inspected the computer servers at the DNC. Actually, when BuzzFeed went into federal court to force the U.S. Department of Justice to disgorge Robert Mueller's final report, you can see it right there in black and white. They found no evidence of Russian collusion or collaboration with WikiLeaks, or that I had received any materials from WikiLeaks. So it's pretty simple, John. You know this. Lou certainly know it.
Yeah.
They framed me for a non-existent process crime in an effort to pressure me into testifying falsely against Donald Trump, and I simply refused to do it. And through the grace of God and a lot of prayer, Donald Trump saw that I was being politically persecuted, that I'd really done nothing wrong, and he not only commuted my sentence, but he gave me a full and unconditional presidential pardon. Now, there's a piece in Politico yesterday about a guy I'm very excited about, a guy named Anthony Constantino, a young, dynamic businessman from upstate New York, who's announced that he will seek the seat of Elise Stefanik, who is vacating the seat to become Donald Trump's UN ambassador. An excellent appointment, by the way. She is a bulldog when it comes to the Constitution and our freedoms and the corruption in our criminal justice system. And it's a great story. It mentions that I am supporting Constantino, which I am, because I'm very impressed with him. Right. It mentions that my sentence is commuted, but nowhere in there does it mention that I was pardoned. And I've asked the guy who wrote it for Politico, I've asked him 2 times for an update, an online update, but that update doesn't seem to be forthcoming. It's just another example of how the fake news media distorts the facts.
You know, it's funny, Roger. I was just Googling real quick. You've been in this business for over 50 years. Is it safe to say that's an accurate number?
Yes, about right. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been in this business 50 years. It took you 40-something years to all of a sudden become a criminal. It makes no sense to me. You're in this business 50. Usually people who are criminals, Roger, live a life filled with crime. It's usually not one instance where you decide, all right, 50 years later, now I'm 65 years old, I'm going to become a criminal and I'm going to lie. It's mind-blowing to me that you decided after 50 years you're going to become a criminal. The other thing that's crazy to me, Roger, is if you look at the situation, the no underlying crime. This is the thing that blows my mind. If you're under oath and you're giving a statement to the FBI about the alleged crime, but there is no underlying crime to begin with, and you make a false statement, whether it be on purpose or by accident, by not recalling something, you are held responsible for that false statement or that incorrect statement you gave, but there's no underlying crime in the first place for this case to be even brought, which is, it seems, the scenario in which you found yourself in, or which they allege that you found yourself in. So that's mind-blowing to me in the first place, because there's no investigation. There's no Roger Stone under oath in the first place without this bullshit that they've perpetrated on you. You brought up DNC and WikiLeaks, and you had mentioned Lou. Nobody cared more about that situation than Lou. And when Lou came out and spoke about it, Lou got sued by Seth Rich, the DNC staffer who was shot in the back of his head in what they called was a robbery, and nothing was ever stolen from him. My lawyer, a man by the name of Ty Clevenger, has been investigating it now since it happened. Asked the FBI for the laptop. They were demanded to turn it over by a court, never turned over that laptop. Very odd. The FBI said they had the laptop. Then they said they didn't have the laptop. The laptop was allegedly sent out to Seth's brother in Colorado. Never got, just a whole cluster mess. And it turns out that Lou was most likely vindicated. We don't know what the settlement was between the Rich family and Fox News, but there was reportedly a settlement where they were paid out. The Rich family cared more about getting a payday from Fox News than finding out what really happened to their son. So that's sort of a travesty if you look at it. The other thing you brought up was Comer and the investigations in the Biden family. Do you think Comer now goes harder than he went before with the Republican Congress, with the Republican Senate, with the Republican in the White House? That harder than he did before?
I certainly hope so, because it's abundantly clear that Joe Biden does not have immunity from acts that took place during his vice presidency. And if a vice president of the United States is a crook, well, I think we need to know that. What you say is absolutely right, by the way. Ty Clevenger, an excellent lawyer representing you, who's been fighting very hard to get to the bottom of what really happened here. But in order to violate the False Statements Act, your statement has to not only be willfully false, but it has to be material.
Right.
And my testimony was voluntary. And nothing I said that was incorrect. I did make some mistakes, but as you point out, they hid no underlying crime because there was no underlying crime to hide. So it is fairly outrageous. Meanwhile, James Clapper testifies under oath that, no, we don't have a metadata collection system on Americans. That's a lie, a material lie.
Yeah.
John Brennan says, no, I wasn't spying on a U.S. Senate committee that was looking into my illegal use of torture as CIA director. That's a material lie for which he should have been prosecuted. James Comey lies multiple times before the Congress under oath. Hillary Clinton, Jake Sullivan, these people all lie under oath, but they lie about material matters that actually matter. Of course, none of them were prosecuted. So it is, as I said earlier, it's time to rebalance the scales of justice. It's time to return to a one-tiered criminal justice system in which people who actually commit crimes, unlike me, are prosecuted. I'll be waiting patiently for that.
Yeah, because you know, at the end of the day, Roger, it's not fair. It's not fair that you've worked your whole entire life. You're in your 70s now. I don't mean to call it your age, but I think it's important that the people realize you worked your whole entire life to eventually retire one day with your wife and live a normal life. And 5 years ago, when you decided you were going to back Donald Trump, and it wasn't just 5 years ago, folks, Roger Stone was behind Donald Trump back in 2001 and 2000, even beforehand. But nonetheless, in 2016, when you decided you were going to help Donald Trump win the White House, which you did, everything came collapsing down on you. And that was it. Everything you had worked for your whole entire life was now fair game. Every dollar you've ever earned was now fair game that you would have to spend to defend yourself over absolutely nothing. How do people like you ever recuperate? I mean, you can't sue for reparations. It'll just be a waste of time because we got a corrupt Justice Department. We have corrupt judges. How does someone like you ever recuperate funds you're going to be paying off a tax bill for the rest of your life, Roger? I mean, how do you justify that? How do people like you deal with something like this? It's not right.
You ask an excellent question. Let me say this. Although my wife and I may now be materially much poorer, we're spiritually much richer. Yeah. So I was sustained only through my faith in God, and because I was redeemed in the blood of the cross, and I returned to the church of my parents and my grandparents and my great-grandparents. And yeah, I get it that the people over at Washington Monthly think that's corny or trite. I don't really care what they think. You know what I care about? I care about what he thinks. That's all I really care about. So we're rebuilding, and frankly, I'm just happy to be alive and around for this incredible moment in which this country is about to undertake an unprecedented golden age of peace and prosperity and security and justice under a man who's already proven to be a great president, but will prove to be an even greater president in his second term. So it's funny. During the questioning by the House Intelligence Committee, I was asked whether I'd spoken to any Russians. I didn't recall having done so. And then it turned out later that I had been contacted by a man who called himself Greenberg. Greenberg, this fellow who called himself Greenberg, said he needed to meet with me. I met with him very briefly. He told me that he had information on Hillary Clinton, and he thought it could be very helpful to Donald Trump. And I said, well, you know, when a presidential campaign stuff comes in over the transom all the time, I'd have to see it to know whether it had any value. He said, well, that's going to cost you $2 million. And I said, well, I don't have $2 million. And if I did have $2 million, this is not how I would spend it. And he said, no, you don't understand. It's not your money I want. It's Donald Trump's money. And I said, well, that's the end of this meeting then, because he has no interest in buying any information from you or anyone else. And I left.
Right.
Now, later it turns out that I didn't know this at the time, that Mr. Greenberg was a Russian national. But guess what else he was, John? He was an FBI informant.
Of course.
He was only in Miami. I have the documents. He was only in Miami because he had been convicted of a violent crime in Russia at the sufferance of the Miami station chief of the FBI. So it was a sting operation. Now, in the beginning, Adam Schiff, that pencil neck, and Eric Swallowswell, they were jumping up and down screaming, Trump lied about meeting a Russian. But then when they found out that the Russian in question was an FBI informant, he disappeared entirely from their hearings. There's one sentence about him in the Mueller report. And they didn't mention that he was an FBI informant. That's the real story.
You know, I got to be honest with you, Roger. You could be Russian for all I know. And I've spoken to you many times over the course of the last few years. And I wouldn't even know. You know, it never dawns upon me to ask somebody where they domicile before I speak to them. But now, I think I probably should start asking as xenophobic or racist as it may sound. Roger, we know you're striped for time. We appreciate you joining us each and every day here on the Great America Show. Folks, I want to leave you guys with something. 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. Call your senators, folks, if you live in Oklahoma, if you live in Maine, and put the pressure on them. Trust me, this is from people I know on the inside. It moves the needle. You may say calling them is not going to do anything. These congressmen, these senators all walk around their offices. They hear the phones ringing all day long. Some of them, congressmen I've worked for, after I've gotten off the phone, said, who just called and what did they want? It moves the needle. Trust me. Roger, you get the last word here as we look forward to just over a month until President Trump's back in the White House.
Well, John, it's great to be with you. You raised an interesting question about ethnicity. I, of course, am half Hungarian and half Italian. I'm Italian from the waist down. John is right about this, though. I'm going to say it again, 202-224-3121. That's the Capitol Hill operator. Politely ask for your senator's office. And when you call, and politely say to them, don't yell, don't shout, don't curse. Politely say to them that they should support the president's nominee. And if they do not do so, you will remember when they come up for re-election or when they are challenged. With that, we'll leave it there. God bless you, John. Thanks for having me. And, well, we'll see you next week.
You're absolutely right. Roger, great American. We all pray for you each and every day on this show. And hope that one day the wrongs are righted, because you deserve it, brother.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us today here on the Great America Show. I appreciate you joining us each and every day and taking an hour of your day to join us for, some of the most important political talk that I think we could have, and that's much needed in this country that we don't get enough of, in my opinion. So we're going to see you right back here tomorrow, I hope. Same time, same place, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues, folks. Each and every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We're on it. You want to shoot me a tweet? You can shoot me a tweet at John Fawcett NY on Twitter, on Truth Social at John Fawcett. You can also email us at info@loudobbs.com. My staff gets it over to us, and we see all the stuff that you guys send in, all the nice notes. We appreciate it, the kind words, and to the Twitter messages you guys send in. I see those as well. So I appreciate all the love and support that you guys have given me on this show over the course of the last few months, and we hope to keep it going into the new year. Show's very strong, and we're doing very well, and it's all thanks to you folks who tune in each and every day. And as I said, I appreciate all the kind words that you guys offer me each and every day. It's the reason I wake up in the morning and get into the studio and do this show. So we'll see you right back here tomorrow, same time, same place, for the Great America Show. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.